Let's go ahead and take a look at the setbacks, zoning, and pro forma options on each of these sites. In the nav tree, if we go ahead and select site A, you'll notice here in the property portion, we are greeted with the setback controls. If we minimize those options, we see zoning, pro forma, and earthwork. We're not going to explore earthwork in this course. We'll cover that in a future course that'll be much more dedicated. So as I said, we're going to take a look at setbacks, zoning, and the pro forma. Let's begin with pro forma. We can start inputting land cost, soft cost, hard cost, everything related to revenue, parking, operation expenses, you name it right there. If we want to explore this in a much more easy to see and some additional features, you can click Edit Pro Forma. Here we have those same land costs and hard costs all up here at the top, but it's just easier to digest and input our values. And once we've gone through here and made the necessary modifications, we can save this financial model simply by clicking right here, giving it a name. We'll call this industrial model, and we can either save it locally or save this financial model to the cloud so that it can be applied to future deals by other users. We're just going to go ahead and save it locally, and we can see it right here. You can see the other financial models that I've created. And once a financial model exists, it can be applied to future sites. So we can even go back to Canvas and we can go and apply that financial model to site B right here. Or site B can have a different financial model. So this is the pro forma. If we go ahead and take a look at zoning, you can see here we have a few default profiles. These are related to multifamily. So we have some options right here. We have dwelling units per acre, height, and FAR. Of course, we don't have any dwelling units here, so we can go ahead and delete that metric. We can click the Add Metric button, and then we can drop down right here and select another option. So we can say maybe yield. We can add another metric and say, let's go with value. And then we can input our values here in this column. And where we can see if we are meeting our zoning requirements are in the tabulation. So as it stands right now, you can see over there on the right, height is 40 feet, and it's green because our maximum allowable height in this zoning location, we have it set to 350 feet. So if we wanted to give our yield a value of, let's say, 5, and our maximum, or let's switch this to minimum value of, let's say, 50 million, you can see how we do not meet that criteria because our value right now is at 37,923,000. If this is a condition that we would always want to meet or that we have to apply in this location, we can save it locally or again to the cloud. So we'll call it industrial zone A and save locally. And again, we can apply this to any of the sites that we create moving forward. Let's go ahead and take a look at setbacks now. The first option we have at the top is ignore roads. As we get to the road module in a future course, we will definitely want to have the ignore road option enabled. So let's just go ahead and turn it on now. And then we get into the actual setbacks. So right now our default setback is set to 10 feet. If I were to increase this value to, let's say, 20 feet, you can see how everything in Canvas on site A is now 20 feet. If we input something a little bit more severe, you can see how that really jumps. We can zero that out. or we can leave it at, let's say, 5 feet. We can then stamp front, side, and rear to setbacks and then control them on an individual basis. So if I click on this little crosshair right here, you'll notice the tooltip says click to activate setback assignment, then select a setback. So we enable it. And if I were to click right here, you can see the orange crosshair at the end of my mouse. That is now the front setback. If we do side, click this one right here, and it says side. If we come down a little bit here, we can click side, side, and side, and side. So you don't have to click that crosshair every time. If we go ahead and say rear, we can click right there. And then we can control those values, as I mentioned, on an individual basis. Like so. If we switch to 3D, you can toggle the global setback here. If we just start clicking on that, you can see how there's a small blue face right there. Those are each of the setbacks in elevation. If we were to take a look at this one right here, if I click in this portion where it says setback control, we just kind of click arbitrarily here. You'll notice in Canvas it split that face right there in two. And if we scroll down a little bit, you'll notice it has an elevation option, so we can control where this setback at height might be. Now, step setbacks or sloped setbacks, we often see those applied to multifamily conditions, but should we have multiple story industrial buildings or extremely tall buildings, we may want to take a look at this. We can say at 60 feet, maybe this setback, which you can click and hold, pushes back at a specific angle. We can also remove that slope setback and we can repeat that process. I'm going to just click twice here arbitrarily. So now I've got these, well, there's three faces here. But if I needed to step that condition, you can see if I drag that node below the first node, or the lower node rather, it will snap at exactly 90 degrees. And now if I wanted to push this one, we won't see it affect anything because there's nothing that high. But if I had another building here, take a look at adding additional spaces or buildings to a site in a future module, it would automatically step for us. So that's how we apply zoning. So we define our pro forma and then adjust and modify our setbacks.